Welcome to GiveThx. We're so glad to have you with us. We appreciate you joining us to talk today about teaching and practicing digital citizenship. We're joined by a special guest, Jake, and we're going to hear from him about his specific experience with students in the classroom using GiveThx. And I've also got our co-founder and my colleague, Mike. He's on the chat and the Q&A, so we welcome you to participate with us through that. Today, we're going to work on defining digital citizenship, thinking about how we can use it to our advantage, what are some of the challenges we find with it with our students, understanding some of what we know works in science with gratitude, and how do we apply those practices to using in our own context as teachers. So I would love to just invite you to share what you feel digital citizenship is in the chat, either privately with us, or if you want to do it publicly, we would love for you to just say, like, what does effective digital citizenship look like for you or for your students? And I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. I meant to say thank you for filling that out. It looks like we are joined by mostly teachers and curriculum coaches. And it looks like most of you have not used GiveThx before. So we will definitely give you a brief introduction into GiveThx. And everything that we present to you today is going to be free and available to you through the end of the year. And all of the practices we introduce to you will be free forever. So you're welcome to use any of those. Okay, wonderful. So let's see what you guys are including in the chat. People who feel confident, competent, and safe in online environments. Good digital citizenship looks like respectful interactions, making choices online, taking responsibility, understanding your interactions have consequences. So great, wonderful start. Please continue to add to the ideas in the chat. We welcome your input. We really learn from each other, and I think that this will get the conversation going. Here's the working definition that we'll be using for this webinar. A digital citizen is a person who develops the skills and knowledge to effectively use the internet and other digital technology. So we really want them taking note of their responsibility in their interactions and also showing their independence. We're working with students who eventually will become adults. We're raising citizens of the world to participate in society, and we want them to be able to act independently and make their own choices. They're developing their own moral filters. And so we do have some challenges with online interactions. We can see exploitation, bullying. We see a lot of anxiety and isolation right now, especially because so many of us are experiencing things more online than in person. But we also see a lot of benefits. Kids can learn safety through this. They can explore relationships in different ways. We can nurture their well-being through apps like GiveThx and others. And we can also be productive online, and we can be social and productive in ways that we couldn't be in person. So today we're going to focus on the relationships and the communication piece of this, always in mind, as you guys shared with us in the chat, with that sense of responsibility, ownership of actions, and being independent. So I'm just going to quickly review gratitude science here for you. We know that gratitude, a regular practice of gratitude, has all of these lasting benefits. And we today, again, will focus mostly on strengthening those relationships, increasing the happiness, and reducing that stress and anxiety, all with regard to digital citizenship. We also know the practices that we can use for these are journaling, letter writing, and what we call a strengths inventory, which we'll show you in our system. So gratitude in particular, with respect to well-being and the social emotional skills that we know are so crucial, especially now, but always in schools. Really, this graphic is designed to help break it down to you that we are focusing on the well-being of students, but also the skills that they develop. We know that when kids can recognize behaviors, it's easier for them to practice those behaviors. Also, when those behaviors are recognized by others, what they are doing, it helps them to build the skills to continue doing those things. Positive reinforcement. And we want to help them to develop those skills that will nurture their own well-being and that of their peers. So most of you who have joined us today said that you have not used GiveThx. I'm going to do a very brief introduction to the tool. If you are interested in getting a more in-depth demo and exploring the opportunity of using it in your learning community, I welcome you to reach out to us. We will provide resources at the end. Everything that I do today is shared with you in free and open materials. All the resources will be linked at the very end of the deck, including this deck. So I'll run through what our program looks like. And if you want to kind of take a deeper dive, I welcome you to reach out to us. Okay, so what is GiveThx? We're an online app. We can be used by any online device. We allow students and staff to send notes to each other. So staff to staff, staff to student, student to student. We also allow for reflections, and we provide a curriculum for you to walk through what those reflections and those gratitude notes look like. We are intended to be used school-wide. We can be used within a class, a division, or we also have school-wide classes where you can build community for the entire learning community. This is what a thanks note looks like in GiveThx. We have noticed down here some social emotional competencies. You can customize those for your school. And so somebody would write a thanks note, they would tag it. They also can do reflection tasks. So these again could be between student and student, student and teacher, or teacher and teacher. And we do encourage you to use it as a staff. And then the reflection task is just student to teacher or teacher to teacher. This is what we call the strengths inventory. And those tags that I told you before that you can customize for your learning community, this is how they show up. So when you receive thanks notes, you get to see what you have been recognized for, and kind of reinforces or maybe surprises students about what they think about themselves. We also have a strengths inventory looking at what you are thanking others for. So what is it that you're seeking out in your community? This is our facilitator dashboard, essentially your teacher view, so that when you are teaching and using GiveThx, you can monitor the engagement and identify students that maybe need a little bit more help, and also identifying the competencies that are most focused on in your class for the week. And you'll notice we offer little class codes, so it's very easy to share with your students. And then this is our engagement heat map. So this is where you can kind of identify where are students giving and getting. Have I had to remove any thanks notes? Because we do want you to monitor those, and you can identify any kids that feel maybe more isolated. And what's really nice is the practices that I'm going to share with you in just a couple minutes. Those are targeted for preventing that isolation. So we have ways to be proactive in inclusivity and helping kids to feel part of the giving thanks. So why we chose to use technology to address these social emotional skills, specifically using gratitude practice, is for these three reasons, but specifically today, learning. What can you learn about yourself? What can you learn about the actions you take online in creating your own citizenship digitally? And what can you learn from that being all in one place? It creates a practice. It creates an inventory for you. Also, we chose to do this because it does provide equity among people in the school, and it allows for teachers to intervene and others, counselors, other technology staff, and administrators. So now I'm going to jump into the practices. And again, I want to reiterate that we have the tool free and open to use through the end of the year. So if you want to do a demo of everything I just showed you, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about how it would work in your community. But these practices are all open Google Docs that you may use. And again, we'll share those out at the end. This is our practice and our reflection guide. And specifically today, we're going to talk about one. So each of them is a one-pager like this and comes with a slide deck if necessary. This practice I'm focusing on today is group gratitude. And the reason I want to do this is because this is really focusing on the independence and the choice making of students and how they collaborate together. So in this practice, students would thank members of their group who have worked together toward a common goal, and recognizing what my action in the group was and how I contributed, but also how others helped to contribute toward that goal. And here is a selection of a variety of practices that we chose from our menu guide. These are just an idea, just to get you thinking about how you might use this in your own setting. You could use it in a regular routine that you already have, whether that's an attendance routine, maybe a process check after you've completed an activity. Perhaps you meet a morning meeting or an advisory, or you have an end of the week celebration as a school, as a division, or maybe just as a class. So these are some ways for you to think about how could GiveThx complement what you're already doing without adding on more. The 3 good things reflection is one that you might already be familiar with, because you might already know a lot about gratitude if you're here today, but that's just recognizing 3 good things, what led up to them, what made them special. That's a reflection. The partner gratitude is similar to the group gratitude, where I recognize somebody that I've worked with in particular. You could imagine that with a staff member, this might work well if you're working on accreditation or distance learning curriculum. Maybe you've worked with a specific team or partner, that might work well. And also maybe reading partners or lab partners for your students. The thank, pair, share is one where we can keep it private, where we thank the student, but then we can share it out. Oftentimes we have shout outs, and when we do shout outs, it can be the same few kids who feel comfortable shouting out or writing it in the Zoom. And so then it's often the same kids that are thanked. And so with thank, pair, share, it allows for that private exchange, but also we can share it out publicly if we want to do more of a celebration. And there's that group gratitude that I talked with you about before. So what I would love to do is, I think we learn best by learning from, those in the field. And we are so fortunate to have Jake Locke, who is a teacher, a fabulous teacher at Chartiers Valley Middle School. And we just thank you so much for joining us, Jake. I'd love for you to share with our community about how you've used GiveThx with respect to digital citizenship.
My name is Jake Locke. I'm from Chartiers Valley, which is a little suburb located in the southern part of Pittsburgh. So repping my colors today. So sorry I'm not more dressed up, but any Gene Day is a Gene Day. So I just want to start out by saying thank you for having me. As far as digital citizenship, since that social studies is the content that I cover, we talk a lot about citizenship. And I think right now, given the pandemic and given all these crazy things going on in the world, it's very easy for students to fall into the trap that sometimes adults do, where we focus on like the negative stuff that we see on the internet. And sometimes we could be like a bit toxic on our things like Facebook, Instagram. It's all this big self-gratifying, you want to like get likes from something. Well, GiveThx, it kind of goes against the grain here, and it allows us to channel the positive features of those different social media platforms into something that it's all positive. We just focus on the positive stuff. It's not a Facebook or an Instagram. Although sometimes our students want to use it like that, and then you actually have to, talk to them about, hey, this is not where you say, hey, if you're a real friend, please send me 5 thanks notes. They do stuff like that, but it's really great. And so how I use it specifically is I like to create opportunities throughout the class where, if they're finished with the test early, we take time to give thanks. We all do a thing where we drop everything and give thanks. So our woman who works down at the office, she will call over the overhead and say, hey, let's give thanks. Let's drop everything and give thanks. And students have the opportunity to send notes. Now, that heat map that you brought up is a great thing, because what we notice sometimes is that some students don't get thanks notes, and it really allows for other students to see this, and they see, oh, if I'm not receiving notes, then how can I modify my behavior? And we sometimes talk about that. We will have counseling with students to discuss, all right, so if this is the case, maybe you can send more notes, because we notice that you don't send a whole lot of notes, and maybe we can start to get onto that and see what happens. Those activities that Amy mentioned are really wonderful, because something like thank, pair, share, it allows us for 2 students who don't usually communicate with each other to thank each other and to connect. And so we're just promoting that idea of citizenship in a time where it's a necessity, because a lot of what we do is digital. Another thing I want to say is, as teachers, we have lots of directives. We have lots of things that we're given, and sometimes, we might not agree with the implementation of these things. I can say that GiveThx is not like that. It's not an overly invasive program. It's something that's really great, because you can have easy applications in the day-to-day. And then there are days in which you can do a deep dive, and you can have some of these reflection tasks that might take like 40 minutes. Maybe you have an activity period. And so you can use that time and do something really valuable, because what we find is, after a while, students really start to do this stuff as a habit. it becomes a part of their habit. To give one example, we had a major bullying situation, earlier on this week in our house. And one student was, made to feel not so great. And I'm the guy who monitors the give thanks notes. So every day I go on and I take a look, and sometimes I'm like pleasantly surprised by some really wonderful notes that were just not prompted at all. And that's what happened. These boys who had gotten caught, or who were not so nice to a friend of theirs, they actually took it on themselves to go and write thank you notes, or not thank you notes per se, but actually apologies through give thanks. One thing we say is, hey, it doesn't have to be strictly thank you for this thing. There are other tags that we have. And so like, hey, I think that, you did an excellent job on your project, good job. It could be in that vein as well. So, when we get one of those unprompted thanks notes, we really celebrate that. And we want to celebrate that like every time, because then the students, they develop that habit. So yeah, there's lots of practical applications you'll probably get from the deck here and from just listening to Amy, but it could be as simple as a daily routine that you get into. And I don't know, we can't say enough about it, because it's quite a program, and I think it's exactly what we need at this time. So that's what I have prepared. If there's any questions, I would love to
Thank
be
you.
a resource.
That's fantastic, Jake. And we will we'll close up, and then if people want to stay on to ask Jake some specific questions or do them through the chat, we'll absolutely open it up. And I really appreciate you sharing that. I love the idea of drop everything and give thanks, like we have drop everything and read. I think that's fantastic. And yeah, the habit setting, the true practice of gratitude is what we hope to help schools start to foster. So it's fantastic to hear the real experience. So, all right, you've joined us, you've listened, you've been a wonderful audience, and now you're thinking, okay, so what about me? What about my community? How do I do this, right? So first of all, again, reach out to us if you want to use Give Thanks, but even if you just want to use some of our practices, what is it that you feel in your own learning community, how you can use these? Did one of these particular practices resonate with you? Did something that Jake mentioned resonated with you? So considering your own role in school, where could you practice this, either with your staff or your students? And you can feel free to put this in the chat. Again, you can do it privately to us, or you can do it publicly. We would love to hear how you could use this, or maybe how you're already doing it and want to grow your practice. So is it with that sort of attendance check in, check out? Is it a process check? Maybe morning meeting, end of the week? Is it with your staff? Is it with students advisory, etc.? We'd love to know where you're thinking of using it. And it looks like one of you said, I think group gratitude could be helpful with seeing responsibility for the group work. Exactly. As we think about digital citizenship, we do want kids to take notice of what their actions are and how they own it, and what their responsibility is. And if they didn't own it, what it was. I love also in Jake's explanation, or his exploration, that students used Give Thanks to repair some damage. That's taking ownership for their actions too. I think that was a great model of digital citizenship. They used it to really help solidify that relationship there. Somebody says, I like the idea of modeling the monitoring so the kids can internalize how to monitor. Great, fantastic. If anybody else wants to post, we welcome you to join us in the chat. Give us your ideas, what you think will work, would be fantastic. I really want to honor everybody's time, so I'm going to move forward and just share this list of resources with you. Each of these is a link, and on the next slide, we'll have a bit.ly where you can access this deck. It will also be emailed to you tomorrow. So want to make sure that you feel comfortable going in here, checking out any of our resources, and save April 1st for our next webinar. Again, if you want to check out Give Thanks, please contact us at info@givethanks.org, or just go online to check us out, and we'll be happy to give you a demo. I want to be mindful again of your time, so thank you so much for joining us. We know that you're doing so much online these days, and we really appreciate that you carved out time for us. I will stay on with Jake if there are any other questions. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.